Vegan Shooter here. I'm back with another video about the Hi-Point firearms. I wanted to show a few of the modifications I made to make them a little more preferable to me and reliable as well as comfortable. One of the first things I realized is that the gun had a safety that wouldn't let you fire it without the magazine in. Now, I don't believe in that kind of safety, so that kind of bothered me. And that was actually a really easy fix. Just a matter of pulling off the side grips, and you can see that's the grip from the 40 cal. And then I pulled out, if you look on the side of the 40 cal, right in here is a groove where the safety sits. That is this bar. Show you real quick. And that fits down inside there, just like that. So pulling off the side, say, a grip, and then just popping that piece out, grab this, disables that magazine safety. So now, putting the grip back on, this gun will fire without the magazine in. So that's a personal preference. Some states require you to keep it. So be sure to check your state laws before you do any modifications to your gun. So that's one thing that I did. I did that on both of these. I don't believe in that safety. I think that's a mistake. So that's the first one. The second thing I did is I realized that the grips are insanely slick. So what I had done is I had taken the grips off. I bought some Rust-Oleum, and I've mentioned this before. I bought some Rust-Oleum textured paint, and there's several different colors. I went with the gray, and essentially what you do is you spray it on, and at first, actually, it takes on kind of a sandpaper type feel. Now, this is smoothed out a bit at this point, but it takes on kind of a sandpaper feel to it, and it gives you a much better purchase on the gun. It also helps with a little bit with the recoil and really helps the gun from slipping a bit. I think that was actually a pretty wise choice I made on this. I've seen a few other videos where people had mentioned this, but it seemed to work out pretty good. Now, in my case, my wife works with resins a lot, so she was able to put an emblem on there. That doesn't really help with the function of the gun, but it's aesthetic appeal. But that's literally all I have done. That's literally one of the things I've done. And I felt that that was kind of an interesting thing to do. Now, with the grips off on this side, you can actually see the way the pistol functions. When you pull the trigger, you can see down in there the mechanism's moving. When you pull the trigger, it pushes this one back, which forces the sear back, which pushes the which forces back the release, which pushes down on the firing pin release, which allows the firing pin to fly forward. Let's see. On the C9, you can see here is on the C9 the same exact bit. You have your trigger pull, and that literally pushes or pulls this piece down right here, which allows the firing pin to move forward, which then fires the round. In my case, what I had done was I pulled the release out, and there's a spring under there, and I made sure that chamber was nice and clean, and there was no bits in there to force it for it to be all gritty. I cleaned up the piece there, and I then oiled it gently and then pushed it back down inside. The side pieces actually come right off, and I went and I smoothed where they meet each other out, and that helped with the trigger pull as well. So now it's actually a pretty smooth trigger pull. It's actually a stiff trigger pull, but it's smooth. The other thing I'd seen people doing was polishing the feed ramp. Now, you'll see Mine isn't polished. That's actually the coating that comes on it. And I don't have feed problems. I actually um, haven't had any feed problems with this, and it didn't require a polishing. In fact, the what do you call it? The coating that's on it, to me, seems to help it a bit because it's very slick. But that's one of the things. So clearing up the way the trigger pulls is one of the things I had done. Another thing I had done was down inside the groove on the slide here. This is the groove that leads to where the firing pin rides and the firing pin springs reside. I actually got a cloth down in there, cleaned out any bit of milling, any kind of grease, any of that, and I literally put a gentle bit of oil down in there, just and then after that point, I hadn't done any more. And then every time I put this back in, I make sure it's got a light sheen of oil, which it still does. I can feel it on my fingers. And then it just slides right in there, and it appears to function rather good. Now, other than that, I really haven't modified these guns at all. They tend to just function. Um, these things are like tanks. They're not pretty. They're not smooth. You're not going to get any dates with them, but they just function. Um, so the modifications to the gun, that's pretty much all I've done. Now I did modify the magazines, and I'll show you. I've got one up here. Hold on a sec. There it is. So I did modify the magazines. Here's one of my magazines. I'll show you. It is loaded, so I'm not going to put it anywhere near the gun, which is, by the way, disassembled. What I did was I disassembled the magazine, and I used the instruction of a guy named Jay Dalton, who's on YouTube. Now, I don't agree with everything he does, but in this case, what he was saying made sense. So I tore down the magazine, pulled the spring out. If you want to know how to do that, go back to my maintenance on magazines video, and that'll tell you how to do that. And then I pulled the follower out, and I took the magazine body and the follower, and I coated them very generously in oil. I put them on a plate in an oven at about 350, 400 degrees, and I baked them for about 20 minutes. The problem is these come with a finish on them that doesn't appear to be completed. It's not a very good finish. It's not baked on, and it's very sticky. So the magazine inside, the follower inside, doesn't move very well. It tends to pitch and move, and it doesn't move in and out of the gun very well because of the surface or the finish on the magazine. Baking it completed the finish and made it a bit tougher. If you see, it's kind of got a flat look to it. When I first got it, it had more of a shine to it, and it seems to have helped. The magazine, it follows much better in the magazine. I did make a few small bends to the spring at the top and the bottom just to give it a little more oomph. But other than that, you can see that bullet sits in there correctly now. When I first got it, at times it would be pushing down, and I have not had a feed problem with this gun since I've done that. So check out the Jay Dalton's videos. Take it with a grain of salt, just like you do anybody's information. But as far as the magazines are concerned and what he knows about the high points and their finish, he seemed to be pretty directly on with those. What modifications have you guys done with your guns? Go ahead and leave me a comment. Let me know what you've changed on yours to make yours a little more reliable. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe. If you know somebody else that's having trouble with their high point, go ahead and share them this video and point it to Jay. He seems to know what he's talking about. Go ahead and let me know what you think, though. This is Pagan Shooter. I'll see you next time.